Episode 265, Mothers and Children. The babies were only 8 months, but Serena had already been taken to the hospital. She felt an intense pain, and Alex did not want to waste time. On the way to the hospital, her water broke. She constantly recalled Alex's words. Jake is still alive. Yes, he was definitely alive. But why leave? Why didn't he come back to see her? Even if he did not want to look at her, he should have come back to look at the children. She was going to give birth. Could he know about that and still not come? Tears dropped from Serena's eyes, and the pain from her lower abdomen made her extremely uncomfortable. There was a lot of noise around, and Serena's mind was blank. She didn't know when she entered the delivery room and didn't know what was going on around her. When the glare of the incandescent light hit, she saw the face she had thought of day and night. Jake was in front of her eyes, and he smiled softly at her. Looking doting and content, he said, "It's amazing. My wife is really amazing." Smiling, Serena's tears flowed down from the corners of her eyes. When she reached out to touch his face, the face disappeared without a trace. The curvature of her lips suddenly went down. Her eyes were blurred. "Jake, where are you? I miss you." It was difficult to give natural birth to twins. Serena was having a C-section. It was a boy and a girl, and the whole family was happy. The boy came out a little earlier than the girl, so he was honored to be the big brother. However, due to premature birth, both children entered the infant incubators. Looking at the rows of little babies inside, Captain Robinson found a sign with the name of Serena at a glance. He was so happy that he could not keep his mouth shut. As for the name of the babies, after carefully thinking about it for a long time, he wrote the names, Julianne and Jeremy. Serena smiled when she heard them because she remembered Jake always wanted to name the kids from that alphabet. After lying in the hospital for a few days, Serena quickly moved back to the old house to rest. Henry had upgraded from the best friend to the cook. Almost every day, he would come to the house to make Serena all kinds of food. Keith was managing the company and always had a bunch of things that he couldn't understand and kept going to Serena to ask her opinion. She always smiled at him and patiently answered his questions. One of the afternoons when he came to talk to her, she looked at him and said, "Keith?" He bit his pen, looked up, and was a bit stunned. "What?" "When I'm done resting, can you teach me to fight?" "You want to learn?" "Yes, and shooting." "Why do you want to learn that? It's illegal," Keith said seriously. "Self-defense, so I can protect myself. Later, maybe I can protect my children too." Serena smiled and looked at Keith, bowed her head and said, "And maybe, when he comes back, I can say to him proudly, 'Look, without you I can live very well.'" Keith stared at her for a long while and then nodded helplessly. "Okay, we will come to that when we come to it, but you have to wait until you finish resting." Sending away Keith, Nanny Harper entered the room and took the babies for her to breastfeed them. Serena had become very thin, so she did not have much milk, which must be mixed with milk powder. She was holding her baby girl Julie, smiling as she watched her small hand grabbing at her and her mouth sucking. Her eyes fell on the wedding photo on the bedside. Serena's look became softer. "Look, without you, I can live very well." After feeding the babies and putting them to sleep, Serena was very energetic. She took her phone and started scrolling through it. She got a text message from an unknown number. It read, "A boy and a girl, congratulations." She had no idea who this was, but she was getting a lot of congratulatory messages. From extended family. She figured it was one of the family friends and replied 2 words. "Thank you." There was no response. The Butler Farms project site was completed in 2 years and became one of the landmarks due to its unique design and interior features. In the 3rd year, it was officially opened, and it took an expensive high-end route. In less than a year, the profit was already very impressive. In 4 years, Erin Ronalds had begun to admire the chairwoman. It was safe to say that Serena had bowled over the entire company with her knowledge. She was loved and revered. In the 4 years, the Robinson Group had changed a lot. Many of the older shareholders and ungrateful employees had left. This worked out because the ones who stayed were truly true to the company, and the newer employees were smart enough to pledge their loyalties. The one woman who always stayed strong, of course, was Miranda. She worked day and night and was Serena's right-hand woman. Her life was going to change too. After all, she was now pregnant. 3 weeks later at the Austin hospital, Stephen Wrong talked to the doctor for a long time before the doctor let him in. As soon as he walked inside, he heard Miranda's miserable screaming. He was so distressed that he ran over and took her hand. When she saw him, she screamed and shouted, "Darling, it hurts!" It was also hard for Stephen, his heart aching. Holding her hand, he kissed it and said, "Don't talk and focus. It will be okay very soon." Miranda gritted her teeth and cried, "I will never give birth again. So freaking uncomfortable. Hey, don't cry. This is the last one." Stephen touched her face. His face looked distressed. "We will have no babies in the future if you're hurting so much. No way." This was not the first time he saw a woman giving birth. However, the first time he had seen Lila Cox. But he had not felt anything at all. He was always under the impression that this process would not affect him. But this time, because it was Miranda, Stephen felt a strong heartache. Seeing her pale face, he couldn't wait to take her place. God knows how long it took. Miranda didn't have the strength to cry anymore. Fortunately, God was very kind to him. After a smooth natural labor, mother and daughter were born safe. When Stephen saw the baby, he smiled happily. However, he did not pay much attention to the baby, but held Miranda's hand and stayed with her. She had no idea how long she had slept. When she opened his eyes, she saw Stephen. His eyes were damp. He looked at her and whispered, "She's wonderful. It's a little princess." Miranda saw him like this and chuckled. "Where's the baby?" "I don't know. She was taken away by the nurse." "What kind of father are you? You don't know where the baby went?" "I want to be a husband and then be a father." Stephen touched her face. "Are you tired?" "Bull crap!" She snorted and burst into tears. Exhausted. When Stephen saw her crying, he panicked. "Why are you crying? You can't cry after giving birth immediately. This isn't good for you." "I just feel so much pain. Do you know that only when I saw you coming, I felt I was happy, Stephen?" Miranda sobbed. "My husband came to see me. Of course, I felt the pain at the time, but no fear. But... Stephen laughed and dried his tears. "Fool." "But how did Serena make it? When she had the 2 children, she was doing a C-section. She must have been very scared, but no one around her could accompany her. She could not even complain to anyone. No one was there. Think about it." Miranda cried again. "Really? It is so sad."